This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg here in South Africa. My name, of course, is Evan Jansen. The show is live. It's broadcast from our studios in Auckland Park. We are also streaming live on YouTube right now, where the whole show is always available on demand on our YouTube channel now. On the show today, we get an update on the situation in Botswana, with Parliament expected to finally sit there today. Then, will cameras and regular raids be the answer to bring down violence at Kwamashu Hostel in KwaZulu-Natal? An update from the Devani trial, and a little bit later in our book slot we look at Johannesburg's parks, cemeteries and the zoo. Should be interesting. But first, let's get the day's news from Katrina Miller.
Well, hello and welcome to Newsroom. I'm Katrina Milan, and let's take a look at those top stories this morning. The remains of 81 South Africans who died in a building collapse in Nigeria could be home by the end of the week. The minister in the presidency, Jeff Radebe, told the media in Lagos last night that if all goes well, the bodies will be repatriated this weekend. The deceased were among 116 people who lost their lives when a guest house belonging to the Synagogue Church of All Nations in Lagos, headed by preacher TB Joshua, collapsed exactly 2 months ago today on the 12th of September.
We hope that this weekend these families would be able to put closure to these very tragic events.
The man who was arrested in connection with the murder of Bafana captain Senzo Meyiwa is planning to sue the police minister for wrongful arrest. Zanukuhle Mbata says police have ruined his life. The National Prosecuting Authority withdrew murder charges against Mbata yesterday, citing insufficient evidence to prosecute. Mbata was arrested days after Meyiwa's killing, when the police were under mounting pressure to bring someone to book.
Maybe people don't understand how the legal system works. When the police, and I don't speak on behalf of them, but when they investigate the case, they don't investigate for 2 hours and then, that's the beginning and the end of it, whatever they find. The investigations are continuing, so they collect the evidence as they go along.
COSATU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi has slammed the decision to expel NUMSA, saying it has momentous implications. In a letter to the Federation's affiliates, which the SABC has seen, Vavi admitted that he refused to be part of a news briefing to explain the reasons behind the expulsion. The state is expected to call its 16th witness to the stand today in the Western Cape High Court trial of British businessman Shreem Devani. Yesterday, Hawks investigator Paul Hendrickse concluded his evidence. Devani has pleaded not guilty to 5 charges, including the murder and kidnapping of his wife Annie. And then lawyers representing mine workers at the Farnham Commission of Inquiry are expected to submit their final arguments this morning. They will argue about the conduct of the platinum mining company Lonmin and whether the force used by the police at Marikana on the 16th of August 2012 was necessary. Now remember, all those top stories and more are available on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Evan, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Katrina. Now, the Botswana Parliament will finally convene today after 2 weeks of court battles over standing orders of the House. The governing Botswana Democratic Party and the Attorney General wanted a vote for the Speaker and Deputy Speaker, as well as endorsement of the Vice President, to be done through a show of hands, not via a secret ballot. The High Court in the Appeals Court of Botswana ruled against them.
Both the Botswana High Court and the Supreme Court of Appeal upheld a judgment which ruled in favor of maintaining the parliamentary orders as they are. This means that a vote for the top 3 parliamentarians can now happen through a secret ballot when Parliament convenes. The ruling party has accepted the court decision.
So whoever he's going to pick as a vice president will be is the person that the president believes will help him to achieve all these milestones that he has set for himself.
Opposition parties say the situation was untenable, while Parliament was used as a political pawn.
The president is unsure about support from his own party with regard to the endorsement of his vice president.
The people who are running scared are the Botswana Democratic Party, which is why they went to Parliament seeking the unsustainable position of voting by show of hands.
Analysts say the court case showcased the country's internal squabbles in public.
It will depend on whether the outcome of the Court of Appeal would soften the president so that he changes his approach to actually engage his members of parliament.
The Botswana Democratic Party has already agreed on names for the speaker and deputy positions. The deputy president will be unveiled in parliament. Tsolofelo Matibedi, SABC News, Gaborone, Botswana.
Now, the government of Botswana says that it will accept this court ruling that effectively thwarts President Ian Khama's bid to appoint his brother as the vice president of the country. Khama, re-elected for a second term last month, wanted lawmakers to vote by a show of hands for his deputy instead of through a secret ballot. That would have allowed a party revolt, some say. Parliament failed to sit in the past 2 weeks after the general elections as a result of this protracted court battle over how the Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the House and Vice President should be elected. Now, a man who's been in Gaborone, but he joins us this morning from Mahikeng, is our very own reporter, Tsolofelo Matibedi. Very good morning to you, Tsolo.
Morning, Evans.
Tsolofelo, a shining light of democracy on the African continent is how America often paints Botswana and then the positive relations it has with the West. Forcing people to vote by a show of hands, that's a little bit undemocratic. Is there a crisis in Botswana?
Well, if you speak to the people or the leaders of the ruling BDP, yesterday we spoke to Mpho Balopi, who is the Secretary General of the BDP, who indicated that, despite what has been playing itself out in Botswana, there's no crisis, indicating that, the outcome of the court is actually a show of, a democracy which is alive, saying that they needed, even an alive democracy, once in a while needs to be tested. So this outcome of the court is a test for the stability of their democracy, and that's how they've interpreted it, saying that it means it's a win for the Botswana people, it's a win for Botswana in general, and it seeks to show how stable their democracy is. That is how the BDP has basically interpreted the whole matter, the whole impasse that was playing itself out in the courts in Botswana.
What is the general consensus in Botswana? You've just come back from there. What are the people saying? Why does Ian Khama want people to vote with a show of hands?
Well, it depends on who you speak to. Different people will have different scenarios. You would have the one scenario which says that he is actually advocating for his brother to take over the reins after he exits or after he finishes his second term in 2018. But then when you speak to other people, they would say, no, actually he doesn't want his brother to step in. He actually wants another person that will come in that will be laying the ground for his brother to take over once that person has finished their term of office. So as I say, it depends who you speak to in Botswana. And another scenario is one that says the BDP actually wants a younger person to take over the reins, looking at the extent at which the opposition parties have, younger people at their helm. And the youth vote was very important because, as you can remember, I was covering the elections in Botswana. The youth vote was very important throughout this election. So both Dumelang Saleshando and Duma Boko are fairly, young people. So, you have dissenting voices in the BDP saying that maybe you need a younger person who would, level the playing field, so to speak, be able to go toe-to-toe with your Duma Bokos and your Dumelang Saleshandos to try to ensure that the BDP remains relevant going forward, basically.
Sounds a lot like a dynasty. What's the mood within the Botswana Democratic Party, Tsolofelo? Well, Is there talks of a revolt against Ian Khama if he tries to push this through, even now after the court ruling?
Well, the BDP is saying, when we spoke to them, they indicated that, immediately after the court decision, they sat with the president, and even yesterday, earlier on, they sat with the president to discuss issues around, who they will be taking forward. There's already names that have been punted of people that will be taken to parliament as a speaker and deputy speaker. And they said that those names were brought forward, with everybody in the party involved. The discussions were held, and they then arrived at the two names. And the president has now the prerogative of appointing the person that will become the vice president. But they say even that will happen through consultation with members of the party. That's what they say. But you will never know, because when we spoke to an analyst, Batang Seabo, yesterday, he indicated that, there are rifts. There are rifts within the ruling BDP, depending on, who wants which candidate to be supported, either for speaker or deputy speaker or president. But when we spoke to them, they try to, keep this picture of a unified or a unified party which seeks to achieve the same objective and the same goals. That's what they said when they spoke to me yesterday.
Very, very interesting. Just quickly, Charlie, I've got 20 seconds to tell me the next move of Ian Khama. Is there a chance of Parliament being dissolved and fresh elections being held?
Well, I do not see that happening now, because that's what analysts were saying. I don't see it happening now, but what will happen today is that the opposition parties already have their own two candidates that they will introduce for the position of speaker and the vice speaker. The one name that has been said is that of Dr. Nyasha, who's been the previous speaker and is said to be advocating for the separation of power, saying that Parliament needs to remain independent. That's why opposition parties are rallying behind her.
Tolofelo Matibedi coming to you live from Mahikeng, giving us an update on what's happening in Gaborone today. Parliament is set to sit there after 2 weeks, and of course the whole furore started because some say there's talks of a dynasty. Ian Khama wanting to make his brother the vice president of the country, this a shoo-in in the next election. A pillar or a beacon of democracy in Africa. Botswana has been known in the West. We move on now. The ANC in KwaZulu-Natal has called on the eThekwini municipality to install CCTV cameras and conduct regular police raids at Kwamashu Hostel north of Durban in order to curb violence there. The hostel was the scene of violence again over the weekend when people were gunned down inside of a house. No one has been arrested for the latest incident. A task team consisting of members of the Hawks, crime intelligence and detectives have been established to investigate the latest murders. National Police Minister Nathi Nhleko and the KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Community Safety and Liaison, Mr. Willies Mqunu, visited the scene of the shooting yesterday after addressing police chiefs in the province. The MEC is also expected to visit the Kwamashu Hostel where these people were gunned down at the weekend. We are joined live from Durban by the MEC. Good morning, Mr. Mqunu. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Eben. Good morning to you and the viewers.
Just give us your reaction first, sir, to the latest incident of violence at the hostel.
Well, look, firstly, it was very dismaying because in that hostel there has been peace prevailing for quite a while now, since the national general elections. But all of a sudden, we then hear of this very, very sad news on Saturday morning. But I've been there, I've spoken to stakeholders there, and therefore we do believe that the processes to deal with the situation are in place.
Well, these processes that we're talking about, we hear about CCTV cameras that are going to be installed and regular police raids are going to be conducted there. Do you expect this to bear the fruit in the short term?
Well,
yes, you can continue, sir.
Look, from our side, the issue.
Mr. Mkunu, it seems as if we've lost sound there with you in Durban. Unfortunately, we've lost the link there. Let's take some tweets, see what you're talking about, and maybe we can get back to Mr. Mkunu and find out what they're doing there. It's been 2 months now, says Ms. Killam in the morning. We need closure and to lay our loved ones to rest. Bring back our bodies. Yeah, that's the latest hashtag doing the round. Bring back our bodies. Hopefully our brothers and sisters will return by the weekend. Slendon's Doodla says, Nigeria, bring back our bodies and take this Ebola back with you. That's a little bit harsh, my dear. Julius S. Malema says, why are these Nigerians taking so long with our bodies? Are they harvesting organs? Says Julius S. Malema. Bring back our bodies. I'm not sure that's the right account, but anyhow. Nigerians are having it nice here, yet it takes a special envoy to ask for the decomposed bodies of our fellow citizens. Hashtag bring back our bodies. That's the latest hashtag doing the rounds. Bring back our bodies. That's what the families of the 80 deceased want here in South Africa. Let's take a look now at the front pages from around the globe. Most papers today are looking at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit that took place in Beijing. There, the International New York Times says President Obama told Chinese President Xi Jinping that he wants to take US-China relations to a new level. Papers in Paris also have a telling image of Obama and Russian President Vladimir Putin on the front page there. The two leaders exchanged pleasantries as they entered the summit site yesterday, with Putin briefly resting his hand on Obama's shoulder. And closer to home, yeah, on the African continent in Nigeria, the Vanguard says the military there has raised a fresh alarm on Boko Haram after the group blasted a boys' school in the Yobe state, killing nearly 50 people. Those are just some of the very latest headlines really from around the world. Time for us to take a little break. You're watching Newsroom here on SABC News.
Thanks, Mom. Have fun. You too.
Our new waterproof smartphone takes superior photos even in low light. Has PlayStation 4 remote play and up to 2 days battery life. Don't settle for good, demand great. The new Sony Xperia Z3 series.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom here on SABC News. Now, trial today, the murder trial, that is, of British businessman Trindavani continues in the Western Cape High Court. The state is expected to call witness number 16 to the stand after Hawks investigator Paul Hendrickse concluded his evidence. Davani has pleaded not guilty to all charges, including the murder and kidnapping of his wife, Annie. Now, our very own reporter, Vanessa Pooney, has been on this court case since day one. She's live outside the Western Cape High Court right now. Very good morning to you, Vanessa. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Evan.
Vanessa, what's the expectation today? It seems as if the country's losing a little bit of an appetite for this court case. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, but no, I don't think that there's a loss of appetite, as you put it, in this court case. What we saw yesterday was the investigating officer, Paul Hendricks, being taken to task by the defence about his handling of the investigation into the murder of Annie Devani. He was heavily criticised because of not keeping an investigation diary since March 2011. He was also criticised for not having a problem with a correction made to an affidavit by the ballistics expert, Sergeant Serpentine, where he corrected the fact that it was a pistol used in Annie Devani's killing and not a revolver. Early on in the day, Captain Hendricks told the court that Shrien Devani, when he interviewed him, made no mention of a helicopter trip or a 10,000 rand that was robbed from the vehicle in which his wife and himself were travelling. Now, if you would remember, earlier on, Shrien Devani has told the court through court papers that money was earmarked for a helicopter trip and not, as was alleged or is alleged by the state, that he had offered 15,000 rand to have his wife killed. There is still a large contingent of media at court attending proceedings, including local and international media. So I would say that as the case, or as the state's case draws to a close, we do still see a media interest in this case.
Let's just conclude quickly with investigator Mr. Hendricks. There was some emotional testimony that came out in personal emails. Can you give us some of that?
Yes, Captain Hendricks testified that 2 emails that were retrieved from Annie Devani's stolen BlackBerry, which was sent to the UK to retrieve those emails, contained email messages to her husband on the 5th of November, just days after they were married, wherein she questions him about how he felt about being married. Also, she mentioned in one of those emails that just because they had a Bollywood wedding doesn't mean that they are Bollywood actors. Once again, the defence grilled Captain Hendricks on the context of these 2 emails. They then went ahead and read a reply that Shrien Devani had made to those emails, in which he says to Annie that, this is how he felt. He was being honest with her, but that the fact was that he loved her and that the others will come. Everything else will come. So once again, Captain Hendricks was grilled by the defence on not putting into context the 2 emails that Annie Devani had written to her husband. And those 2 emails clearly shows that she wasn't exactly happy with Shrien Devani's feelings about, the marriage at that stage, which was less than a week after they had their lavish wedding in India.
Now, one thing that came out also was the defence advocate, Francois van Zyl, questioning the impartiality of the investigating officer in this cross-examination. What was that all about?
Yes, at one point, Advocate van Zyl said to Captain Hendricks, "Sir, your bias is showing." Now, he made reference to Paul Hendricks' Facebook account, especially at the time when Shrien Devani was fighting his lengthy extradition battle, not to come and answer questions of his wife's murder here in South Africa. At that time, there was allegedly a post on Captain Hendricks' Facebook account whereby he made reference to the Mental Health Act and also a reference to the criminal justice system, and also the fact that Captain Hendricks had a number of Annie Devani's family members as Facebook friends. He was grilled on whether this does not point to bias. Captain Hendricks then in reply said that his Facebook account had been hacked. He had made no such post, and he also said that to him it doesn't show bias because he had those family members of Annie Devani on his Facebook account. So the defence has really highlighted what they call bias by Captain Hendricks on why, for example, he didn't put into context the 2 emails Annie Devani had sent to her husband, or Shrien Devani's reply, why he had made allegedly this post on his Facebook account, and also the fact that he hadn't kept an investigation diary, which Captain Hendricks says was because by that time information was being leaked to the media. Advocate van Zyl criticised him heavily for not having kept that, saying that the many mistakes made could have been prevented if he had such a diary.
I just want to take you back a little bit quickly, Vanessa. Another witness was the alleged middleman, Mondi Mbolombo, who spent 3 days in the dock. Just talk about the significance and then what came out.
The significance of Mondi Mbolombo testifying in this trial really points to the fact that he was a Section 204 witness. He testified against Xolile Mngeni in his trial in 2012. Then he was granted indemnity from prosecution. The judge in that trial found that he had been honest and also had implicated himself in the plot and the plan to kill Annie Devani. Now, the defense in this trial has always alluded to the fact that perhaps Mondi Mbolombo played a bigger role, perhaps he played a more planning role. And evidence in this court here, Mondi Mbolombo admits that he did play a bigger role, that he had taken it upon himself to be not just the link man who linked taxi driver Zola Tongo to hitman Zwamadoda Kwabe, but that he in fact had made a flurry of phone calls, that he was asked about white hands, which referred to gloves that the hitman wanted to wear, and that he was very involved even on the evening of the murder itself with phone calls and conveying messages to and from the various parties in this case. At the beginning of his testimony, Judge Jeanette Traversa made it very clear to Mr. Mbolombo that even though he had gained immunity from prosecution in the trial of Xolile Mngeni, that she wasn't quite sure whether that would extend to the charges that Shri Ndavani faces in this trial. So yes, Mondi Mbolombo, I think, could still play a role at the end of this trial, and it will also then later on perhaps be argued and discussed, and the judge will then come to a conclusion on whether A, he was truthful because he admitted that he had lied in previous statements and when he testified earlier, and whether he was honest and which version of Mondi Mbolombo should be believed. The defense said to him during cross-examination that with him, one never knew where the lies stopped and if they ever stopped or where the truth began. So it will be very telling once the judge makes her mind up about what exactly the caliber of witness Mondi Mbolombo was in this trial.
Finally, Vanessa, December 12th is the date for the conclusion of this trial. Are we going to make that date, or do you see this trial going into next year?
Even there has been talk that we could see the case or this trial sitting for another week after December the 12th at least. It's very uncertain at this point whether or not we will conclude with all the aspects of this case by that date. But it certainly is the feeling of the defence as well as the state that they would want to conclude within that time frame. Now, we've heard the possibility that Captain Hendrickse may be called back to the stand this morning before a new 16th witness is called. So at this stage, it's really unclear how many more witnesses will be called or whether this matter will then be concluded by the 19th of December.
Vanessa Puna, thank you for that contribution live outside the Western Cape High Court, giving us a little update on the Shri Ndavani trial. As you just heard, it might go on until Friday, the 19th of December. And I can tell you I don't think it will, because it looks like there's still a lot of detail to come out within this trial. Let's take a quick look at your tweets. What are you talking about? What is the subject? Jabulani says this is a lesson for all of us that we should not take the law into our own hands when we arrest suspects. Zanukutle Mbata, yes, mob justice very much on people's minds. What if an innocent man was killed again? Freedom. Mapapeni says, what next? But Zanukutle Mbata, after being arrested and detained 4 days while innocent, Mbata to sue the SABC for defaming his character. Is he innocent? Well, that's a question I think that still might be tested going forward. Mubatsiri says, I can imagine how Zanukutle Mbata will fight or fit back into the community after Senzo Miiwa allegations. Yes, it will be very difficult for this man to live within that community after being accused of this sensational murder. Zandile says, I hope no one claimed the 250,000 reward, so they may compensate Zanukutle Mbata. Yeah, no, that reward is still up for conviction. Nosy says, I don't even trust that identikit anymore, says Senzo Miiwa, Zanukutle Mbata. Yes, unfortunately, that is how justice is dished up all around the world. Somebody has to be arrested at some point during police investigations. Isn't that how it works all around the world? Let's take a look at what's happening on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can read more on the Parliament of Botswana. That's expected to convene after the court resolved the stalemate, which held it to ransom for the past 2 weeks, and that COSATU's General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi says he cannot defend the Central Executive Committee's decision to expel Union NUMSA. In a letter obtained by the SABC, Vavi says the future of the Federation is well at stake. You can find all of the stories and a whole lot more on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can also visit sabc.co.za/news for the very latest news updates. Now, before we take a break, do you remember Big Bank Hank, the New York rapper who was part of the Sugar Hill Gang, released what is generally regarded as the very first rap record? Well, he's died at the age of 57. The performer, his real name, Henry Jackson, died from complications due to cancer. Jackson formed the Sugar Hill Gang with Master G and Wonder Mike, having a big hit in 1979 with Rapper's Delight. The full version of Rapper's Delight ran nearly 16 minutes long and was recorded in one single take. The gang also performed Rapper's Delight on Soul Train. Let's take a look at that.
You see, I am Wonder Mike, and I like to say hello. Up to the black, to the white, the red, and the brown, the purple, and yellow. But first, I gotta bang, bang, the boogie to the boogie. Say up, jump the boogie to the bang, bang, boogie. Let's rock. You don't stop, rock the rhythm that'll make your body rock. Well, so far you've heard my voice, but I brought two friends along. And next on the mic is my man Hank. Come on, Hank, sing that song.
Check it out, I'm the CASN, the OVA, and the rest is FLY. You see, I go by the code of the doctor of the mix, and these reasons I'll tell you why. You see, I'm 6'1", and I'm tons of fun, and I dress to a T. You see, I got more clothes than Muhammad Ali, and I dress so viciously. I got bodyguards, I got two big cars that definitely ain't the whack. I got a Lincoln Continental and some new Cadillac.
I realized life is short. I want to live my dream.
They can bend my face, but not my voice.
I'm definitely not a cross-dresser. South Africa, I'm just a gay man.
Join Puleng Molebatsi on Bupilong every Saturday at 17:30 CAT.
Hello and welcome back. You're with Newsroom on SABC News. Let's just recap the top stories this morning. The remains of 81 South Africans who died in a building collapse in Nigeria could be home by the end of the week. The Minister in the Presidency, Jeff Radebe, told the media in Lagos last night that if all goes well, the bodies will be repatriated this weekend. The deceased were among 160 people who lost their lives when a guest house belonging to the Synagogue Church of All Nations in Lagos, headed by preacher TB Joshua, collapsed exactly 2 months ago today, on the 12th of September. The man who was arrested in connection with the murder of Senzo Mayiwa is planning to sue the police minister. Murder charges against Zanukuhle Mbata were withdrawn by the state yesterday, citing insufficient evidence. Mbata appeared in the Boksburg Magistrates Court after being in police custody for 10 days. He was arrested days after Mayiwa's killing when the police were under mounting pressure to bring someone to book. And COSATU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi has slammed the decision to expel NUMSA, saying it has momentous implications. In a letter to the Federation's affiliates, which the SABC has seen, Vavi admitted that he refused to be part of a news briefing to explain the reasons behind the expulsion. Now remember, all those top stories and more are available on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can all find it there. Also, the video we've showed you earlier of Big Hank, you can watch the full clip there of his performance on Soul Train. Well, the rest of it you can all find on Twitter. It's at SABC Newsroom. Send us your comments and your pictures. Tell us about all of this and more. And we post it on the show and we talk about it. We love your pictures. We love all of that. Well, Evan, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Katrine. We're having a little bit of technical difficulty. We were trying to bring you the Nahawu scenario, how it's playing out in the Eastern Cape with Tommy Dixon, but unfortunately it seems he can't hear me at the moment. So we're going to carry on and start with a book slot, our weekly book slot. Now for our weekly book slot, we'll look at a journey through Johannesburg's parks, cemeteries, as well as the zoo today. There are some remarkable stories behind the City of Gold's natural wonders and cemeteries that remain largely unknown to all of us that even live here. And that is exactly why author Lucille Davey, who is just sitting down, also explores these treasures in a monthly newspaper column. Well, she decided to now share these wonders in this book with all of us, Johannesburg City Parks and Zoo. Also joining us today is the Managing Director of Johannesburg City Parks and Zoo, Mr. Bulumko Nelana. Very good morning, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Morning. Morning.
A little bit rushed to get you into the seats there for a second. Eh? I want to start with you, Lucille. Just tell us a little bit about, we all know we live in this beautiful city, but tell us about the book, the inspiration, and how it sort of affected you.
It was commissioned by Joburg City Parks and Zoo, and I think primarily because they wanted the citizens of Johannesburg to get more out of their parks and zoo than just going along and having a picnic. They wanted them to get a greater understanding of the history and heritage behind those parks.
We live in a really beautiful city. Some say it's the largest man-made garden on the planet. Is that accurate? And just tell us some of the highlights that you've encountered while putting this together.
Just on the largest man-made forest, it's got 10 million trees, the same as LA in the US, and it's believed that that's the biggest in the world, the biggest man-made forest. Highlights were finding out some extraordinary things. When I visited Avalon, I was intrigued to find out that Lillian Ngoyi and Helen Joseph are both buried in the same grave.
Wow.
Dear friends, anti-apartheid activists. Lillian died in 1980 after living for 18 years, basically under house arrest in a small home in Soweto. And Helen Joseph died in 92, 12 years later. And she insisted on being buried in the same grave.
Yeah, must have uncovered some other wonderful truths while you were busy with it. But look, I've kind of asked you, from your side, do you think that the citizens of the city are aware of all the treasures that's almost hidden away a little bit right next to all of us here?
No, we don't think so, and that is why we commissioned the book, because it captures really a 1.4 million year history of the city. And it shows the various connections we have with the rest of the continent, the rest of the world. So really it's a melting pot. And through this book, we are able to see the significance of the parks in the evolution of the city, with the stories behind, underneath the cemeteries, obviously, as well as facilities like the zoo and the zoo lake that have been quite significant in the history of the city, and how the community has formed around those facilities.
Do we have a culture in Johannesburg of the people interacting with the facilities like we have elsewhere, or do you feel it's a bit of a job to get people out to come and really see how beautiful the city is that they live in?
Well, for the longest time, I mean, Zoo Lake alone, even during apartheid years, people of all races used that space. They often say that it is a substitute for the oceans or the beaches we don't have as a city. So it's a sport that really has shown that parks can be used to enforce a human interaction, in a relaxed mode, and so on. But also other parks like Joubert Park, do carry with them a long history of interaction and a commitment to horticultural services and using horticulture to enhance human lives and so on. So we've carried on that culture into present-day Johannesburg, and we're hoping to build into the future and make previously disadvantaged areas greener as well, so that the human interaction is improved in those spaces as well. And again, partnerships with the private sector have also helped, because they have come in to host some of the events in these facilities. So there is a big use of the facilities.
It seems as if there's even a bigger, and the good news is it's going to be expanded, it seems, around the city. But let's go back to the book itself. Tell us about the type of research that you had to do, and what were the things that really stood out while you did this?
You know, I've been writing about Joburg for many years for the Joburg City website. So in many ways, the research and the writing has been done. And it took me about 3 months to write the book, really just consolidating what I had written. I mean, more additional research as well, under very, very tight deadline. But I'm pleased with the result.
The future of the parks, the recreation facilities in Johannesburg and surrounds, what does that look like?
Well, it's looking very bright. Johannesburg is over 100 years old, and it has to remake itself into a city of the future. And our view is that the future of the city is green. It has to build around what it has achieved with these parks and the other natural resources it has maintained over time. So more investment is expected, but also for the climate of the city, because with climate change, there's going to be more rain, there's going to be more heat. So the greenery helps to break the negative effect and mitigates against that climate change. So the future is green, as you say.
The future for the city is green. It's already such a beautiful green city. We hope we can extend that a little bit throughout the year. But Lucille, there's a wonderful story that I see about the Rudolph copper butterfly that's found only in Reimsig. Tell us a little bit about what you uncovered there.
I think it's such a special thing that we have in the city. In fact, it's the only place in the country, and therefore in the world, where you'll find this butterfly. And it has this wonderful symbiotic relationship with an ant. So what the butterfly does is it lays its eggs on the underside of this ground cover plant.
Yeah.
And what the ant does is the ant comes and takes the eggs and takes them underground and nurtures them until they hatch into caterpillars.
That's
and
amazing.
Then every evening it nudges the caterpillars above ground to eat those same leaves, and then shepherds them back underground because it's only safe at night for them.
Yeah.
Otherwise birds will take them during the day. And this carries on for some time until the caterpillars obviously spin into a cocoon, which is eventually then born into a butterfly, and that goes above ground, and so the cycle starts again. The butterfly lays its eggs on the underside of that plant again.
Oh, that's a wonderful...
But what the ants get in return for all this hard labor is they rub against the caterpillars, and they get a kind of drug which makes them high. So they have this wonderful relationship, an ant and a butterfly.
Well, the ants, you work hard, you play hard, I suppose. That's how it works in the end. That's just life, you work hard, you play hard. Guys, thank you. Wonderful book. If you want to go out and buy it, it's called Park, Cemeteries and the Zoo, Journey Through Johannesburg, and really a fantastic picture book, really nice to look at. And we in Joburg, we should really appreciate the fact that we live in such a beautiful city, thanks to these wonderful people who look after it. Now, finally, National Education, Health and Allied Workers Union, NAHAWU in the Eastern Cape, has accused the Legislature Secretary Phumelele Ndamase of union bashing with regard to its recruitment policy. This comes as dozens of union members are embarking on a protected strike this week, calling for his immediate suspension. The CCMA has given union members a go-ahead with the strike as part of their industrial action to vent their grievances. Now, our assignment editor in the Eastern Cape, Tommy Dixon, joins us live from Port Elizabeth. Good morning, Tommy. Thanks for joining us.
Morning, Evan. Good morning and welcome to the Eastern Cape.
Yes, always beautiful. I love the set, the new look you've got going there. But just give us an update on this industrial action by Nahawu there in the region.
Right, Evan. It's something that we are watching out today. The strike started yesterday. We have been informed that it's going to continue today at the legislature in Bisho, which is about 3 hours away from where I'm standing. Now, the issue here with the workers is really about the recruitment policies at that legislature. The argument of the workers is that they had an agreement with the Secretary of the Legislature to put on hold the employment or the recruitment processes from 2010 until after the elections, because they were still sorting out quite a lot of issues that they were fighting over about the process itself. Yeah. But now they are accusing the Secretary of the Legislature of not sticking to that agreement, but instead he is actually manipulating the recruitment processes so as to benefit his friends, his family members, and so on, so that they are the ones who actually get the posts. Now, you would probably remember we have been dealing here in the Eastern Cape with what is known as the Sex for Jobs scandal that has actually taken place inside that provincial legislature. Now, this is about the recruitment processes, the jobs that are available in the legislature, which are allegedly being sold to potential employees in exchange for them to give those who are in those positions there, particularly females, to give them sex and so on. Now, this is about that. And now Nehao says, no, this can't go on forever anymore. That's why they have embarked on this process. They want now the Secretary of the Legislature to be removed and suspended with immediate effect, and so that they can re-look at the whole process of recruiting new employees in the legislature. Obviously, we spoke to him. He is denying the allegations. He's refuted them to say that Nehao is very economical with the truth, because they actually do sit in the committees that adjudicate the processes of employing new members in the legislature. That's what we're dealing with here, Ben.
I also understand that Minister of Local Government Pravin Gordhan is in Bishu. What is he up to in the region? Has he got the MECs nervous there?
Well, look, you would know that Minister Pravin Gordhan, they've just launched a very ambitious program called Back to Basics. They've launched it in Gauteng, if I remember correctly. Now, the essence of that program really is to clean the image of the municipalities in the country. You are aware of the challenges that are faced by the local government. And now this is the second leg now of that program. They are taking it to the Eastern Cape to say that this is what needs to be done to clean up the image of the municipalities. You'd probably remember various stories that we have covered from the Eastern Cape that deal with the problems that affect the local government. Recently, we've done a story about a place called Kekwood, where residents just got up in arms and they destroyed municipal infrastructure because they were fighting with the municipality over services. Yeah. You would remember that we did a story about the dissolution of a council in Molteno by the provincial government because of political infighting and corruption. You would remember we carried a story about the Makana municipality, which encompasses Grahamstown, where there have been issues of water crisis and aging infrastructure for a long time. That municipality has been put put under administration. You'd remember the stories we have covered about the Nelson Mandela Metro, which also faces a whole range of issues, including instability and maladministration and financial issues. And that too has been a problem that has been recurring for a while. Now, these are some of the issues that Minister Pravin Gordhan is going to deal with when he looks at the whole picture of the local government in the Eastern Cape, to say that, guys, it can't continue like this anymore. This is what needs to be done. Deal with issues of shortage of skills, deal with issues of employing people just because they are popular within the political circles of the ruling party. Deal with those issues and ensure that we get people who will be able to get in those positions and deliver the services to the people. Yeah.
Tommy, thank you very much for that update today. That's our assignment Saturday down in the Eastern Cape. Tommy Dixon giving us well, what's really happening there today. Pravin Gordhan is going to be visiting there, and I'm sure the MECs are nervous down in the Eastern Cape. He's there on a visit, and also, of course, Nahawu. Well, infighting continues there. Let's take a quick look at some comments before we say goodbye. Time to sleep to all those suffering from the May Mahlangu syndrome. Yes, just thinking, is Bafana maybe not better off? Don't we have enough soccer players to fill the gap left by May Mahlangu since he is tired? Yes, Mr. Kweli says South Africa was once discarded from international football. Players like Sir Jomo Sono never had this opportunity. That's a very sober view. Sir Jomo Sono, has Jomo Sono been knighted? He hasn't been knighted. Okay. Jomo Sono for the opportunity. Well, Jomo Sono was a wonderful football player, one of the greats of all time. No one will ever forget the picture, 1981 mainstay, when he stood on the ball. It was amazing. Newsroom, we're going to leave you with Rapper's Delight. My man, Big Hank, in the mix. We're live from our studios here in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. That's every day between 9 and 10 a.m. This is Newsroom. We love it in the morning.
And I dress so viciously. I got bodyguards, I got 2 big guns, it definitely ain't the whack. I got a Lincoln Continental and some new Cadillac. So after school I take a dip in the pool, which is really on the wall. I got a color TV so I can see the Knicks play basketball. Hear me talking about checkbook, credit cards, more money than a sucker could ever spend. But I wouldn't give a sucker or a bum from the rock and not a dime till I made it again. Everybody go, hotel, motel, what you gonna do today? Cause I'm gonna get a fly girl, gonna get some spank and drive off in a death OJ. Everybody go,